Oh, I did. Holy crap. Holy crap. No, we had company people in. Oh my gosh. When I walked in the office at about 7:40, from that moment until I had company people, I had 2 meetings one morning that went by fairly quickly. But by the time I got done, I looked down and it was 10 minutes till 1. And I was like, holy crap. What? I like those. Oh, I like it. I'm getting stuff done. At one time I was feeling I had got enough.
Thank you. I just imagine what it's like seeing them in person.
Is everybody ready? We have to, I think all mics are off, so. All right. Welcome everybody to the July board meeting for the Alexander School District. Aaron, if we can get a call to order.
Here.
Here.
Yes.
Yes.
Here. Everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Welcome again, everybody. We have the adoption of the agenda. And before we do that, we have 3 items to be added for superintendent recommendations. Item C, we need to add Aaron Miller, vocational agriculture, Sheila Cullums, director of special education, and Todd Norris, volunteer coach for boys soccer. We have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Mrs. Udis?
Yes.
Mr. Regan?
Yes.
Mr. Barnes?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes. Is there any public participation for agenda items? Now we have a special presentation by the Alexander Athletic Boosters.
Good evening. My name is Russ Norris, and I'd like to thank you to start off for the opportunity to come before you tonight to start a conversation. This conversation is to make the board aware of a campus need, or if you like, an issue. This conversation is to get the administration moving forward and planning for their short-term and long-term plans to address this issue. Finally, and very importantly, this conversation is to get the community involved through discussions, questions, and hopefully answers that will get the support to maximize the impact on our students and community. The issue we're discussing is the condition of our track. The impact is not just a single sport, but a multitude of activities. I know many of you have recently had the opportunity to go down and look firsthand at our track facility. I really strongly recommend that community members take the time in the next couple of weeks to head down to the track and walk for a half an hour. Look at it. What you're going to find is a track facility that has been pushed way beyond its lifespan. It's uneven, it's cracked, it's broken, it's worn out in sections that's showing asphalt. The asphalt is cracked, and it's starting to come up. At this time, what I'd like to do is have you hear from a couple of the students so you can hear their experience. Just a minute or two from each one of them so you can put yourself in their shoes. First, we're going to have Taylor Meadows, and she's actually called in for this since we didn't have a Zoom for it.
Alrighty. Hello, everyone. I'm Taylor Meadows, and I'm an Alexander alumni that graduated in 2020. I participated in sports all through high school, consisting of soccer, basketball, and track. I also hold the current 200-meter record, and I'm a part of the team who has the 401 record in track. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about some of the many reasons why our track needs replaced. First of all, it's very injury prone. With all the holes in the asphalt, it's really hard to run and not trip and fall, especially when it's raining and there's mud puddles everywhere. I've seen countless teammates, and I myself have tripped and fallen and acquired injuries because of this track. On top of, this track was last updated in 2007, and it was patched in 2012. The patches are way past their expiration date, and they're coming up themselves. On top of, it's hard to prepare for a competition without a track that doesn't have holes, or has holes, and there's a lot of hindrances in training. On top of, running is the basis for all sports. We need a track that can have every team using it and is able to accommodate that, especially athletes in the off season. We cannot have 6 lanes and only 4 operable for all these teams. You're asking for a disaster with all these teams there. On top of having the pride of our own track, we are one of the few schools in our division that does not have a home track meet. And that's kind of embarrassing. We have to have our senior night at Nelsonville. No offense to Nelsonville, they're kind people who allow us to do that, but I would love to have it at my home track. So to conclude, our track is in disrepair, is in need of an update, is injury prone due to holes, it lacks the ability to fully prepare athletes for competition with the lack of lanes, it is not accommodating for all sports, and it's hard to have pride in a track that all schools laugh at. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Rosie. Now I'd like to introduce Tyler Wallace.
Good evening. My name is Tyler Wallace, and I will be a sophomore this coming year. I am part of the high school soccer, cross country, and track team here at Alexander. I was asked to share my experience as a high school athlete that trains on the current track. Running is one of my passions. I love to run, I love to compete, and I would be lying if I said that I didn't like to win or at least get a nice PR. Unfortunately, our current track conditions make it hard for us to train properly. I know all of you have walked the track and have seen the poor conditions, especially on the visitor side. I run long-distance relays and long-distance events, and it is hard to be able to train at a competitive race pace and be ready for our meets. Last season, I personally qualified for regionals in 2 events, our 4x8 relay team and the 2 mile. Do you know how hard it is to train on an uneven track with holes, pushing yourself every day with the fear of an injury? My personal goals are making it to regionals, then to state, and beating the school record in the 2 mile before I graduate. And it all depends on the training and safety of a track. And it is not only me. Every single track athlete trains in these conditions on a track with so poor conditions that we are not even allowed to host home track meets. As an athlete and a student, we deserve better. We deserve to be able to train like other sports and have home meets where our families and friends can come to our home school and cheer us on. We deserve equal training conditions to other sports at Alexander. We deserve the opportunity to be able to compete point-wise with other schools. At every meet as a team, we lose points due to not having all the events. Pole vault is just an example. And we also lose points due to injuries from our training conditions. I also play soccer here at Alexander, and I have since the 2nd grade, starting with rec, then moving on to travel teams, junior high, and now in high school. I know on our travel team, it was hard to find space to practice, and in junior high, just like now in high school, we share a game field with multiple other teams, and it's torn up before each season even starts. Our soccer teams have been asked to move games elsewhere because of the conditions of our field. A new track facility with space for soccer will allow us not only to have a safer track, but also allow soccer to have a space to safely practice with proper field size and a place to give youth programs the opportunity to grow. I may be a kid here, but I hear people talk, and I know that there is a fear with a new track coming in. It would appear that sports are more important than academics, but that is not the case. Do you know that I am a better student academically because of sports? That I am a better person because of the lessons that sports teach me? In my house, grades and academics are always first before sports. But for me, without the combination of academics and sports, I wouldn't be the student that I am. As a student, all I want is equal and safer practice conditions in a place where we can safely train and do our personal best as athletes. I am hopeful that before I graduate, I am able to train safely and fairly at Alexander. Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight.
Thank you, Tyler. I was proud. Tyler was one of my soccer players, so I'm really proud of him. Kaylee Ferrero is going to come up and speak up. Ferraro is going to speak next.
Hi, my name is Kaylee Ferrero, and I'm going into the 9th grade. I joined track my 8th grade year, and I joined it because I needed self-esteem. Sorry. I have seen a change in myself, but I cannot practice. On a torn up track that is able for injuries and safety. There has been standing water and ice on the track as long as I can remember. There's been different debris like pine needles that have acid in them dissolving the track. Cracks and holes have appeared, and it gets more torn up. As a student, I would love to train safely and not have the capable injuries. That's all. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Kaylee. And finally, we'd like to bring up Brianna Wallace to talk to you.
Hi guys. My name's Brianna Wallace, and as many of you know, I graduated this year. I was given the opportunity to speak on the idea of a new track for the track athletes to practice on and to have track meets. Sports have made a huge impact on my life. They've taught me many life lessons that I may not have gotten to learn without being involved. I am hopeful that the future generations of Spartans will not only have the same experiences that I've had, but in a safe and equitable way. Alexander has and always will be the school that wants to make sure all students feel they are safe, that they are equal and all treated the same. With that being said, I would like to bring up a few scenarios that I think should be thought upon. If our football field was not big enough or safe enough to play a TVC game on, would we constantly send the kids to a different school, not allowing them to ever get that home game feeling? What about for basketball or volleyball, softball, or baseball? Would we make the kids always travel to the opposing school, never to live that home game feeling? Where the student section is there to support the players and the families can get together to watch their children play? Or would we do everything in our power to fix what is needed to be fixed to give these kids a sense of equity throughout the whole student body? I feel the same should be thought about for the track athletes, as they are constantly getting sent to another school to run, and to be told our track is not wide enough or safe enough to have our own TBC meets. This taking away that home feeling, as well as not allowing families to watch their children do what they love because it's too far away to drive to. As I stand here today and speak in front of all of you, I can't help but realize many of you have had or will have seniors in sports. I would like to discuss, as this one hits close to home, senior night. We allow all the athletes to have their one night as they walk across their home field, play once more under the lights or on the court before they graduate, only to move on to bigger and better things. As we had to have our senior night at an opposing school, Nelsonville. I was also told I couldn't have any parents walk across the field with me. Since it wasn't Nelsonville, I had family members that were not able to attend. The seniors aren't even allowed to have their own senior night at home, forcing them to try and enjoy their last meet at a different school. If we were to make a track at Alexander that was in TVC regulations where we could have a meet, this would allow the seniors to feel they're getting their special night like all of the other sports seniors do. The last thing I'd like to bring up is allowing the track team to be more competitive when it comes to meets as well as safety of our practices. Track, like every other sport, is a sport that's based on nothing but points. Athletes run their personal races, and depending on your placement, you can get points for your team as a whole. As of right now, Alexander is getting 0 points in pole vault. We don't have a pole vaulting area, forcing all pole vaulting athletes to go to another school to practice. Our high jump and long jump area causes more injuries than they do achievements. This is because the area designated for both are overlapping each other, which causes one area to be unusable, or the athletes must alternate back and forth, causing a major safety hazard. The condition of our track is causing athletes to get hurt, and it is preventing us from being able to practice properly. The track isn't wide enough for the mid and long distance kids to practice, which is sending us to run in the woods and around practice fields as if it were cross-country practice. Short distance athletes must sprint through tree debris left all over while dodging holes surrounding the entirety of the track. Our track is undeniably unsafe for athletes to properly practice on, causing athletes to not be at their full potential when it comes to the day of the meet. We're never being given the opportunity to score up there like the other competitive schools like Athens. I would like to thank everyone for allowing me to share my opinion on why I feel getting a new track should be considered and thoroughly discussed. Thank you.
Turn your eyes to the screen. This is actually her senior night at Nelsonville.
Alexander Senior, Brianna Wallace. Parents, Rhonda and John Wallace. Sports, track, first 1 year. Cheerleading, 9 years. Cross country, 1 year. Extracurricular activities. Leo Club, Student Council, Interact Club, Turn It Gold, Bobcatathon Planning Team. Hobbies, running, spending time with family. Future college career plans. Plan on going to Ohio University to major in nursing to become a pediatric oncology nurse. Final words. I would like to thank my family for always pushing me to be my best and all of the support. I would also like to say thank you to my coaches for everything.
We're grateful of Nelsonville allowing that to happen. That should never, ever happen. And that's not the first class that's done it. You heard from Taylor tonight saying they had to do the same thing. That's really not acceptable. But on a positive note, after seeing those 4 young kids come up, the school is doing so many things right. You have so much to be proud of. To listen to those 4 come up and talk. I know I would have never had that courage as a high schooler to come in front of the board. As I mentioned earlier, tonight is the start of a conversation. For our conversation to be open and truthful so that the best possible outcome will occur, there needs to be trust among all parties so that you, the board, the administration, and the rest of the community understands who we are. I'd just like to take a few minutes to give you a background on us and how we came here tonight. Like many other school community groups, we are made up of parents, teachers, coaches, alumni, and volunteers from within the Alexander community. Our group developed just after the end of the track season this year. A few parents, a coach, a couple of the members of the athletic boosters started asking questions, seeking answers to why do our kids travel only to away meets and can never host an event? Why are other tracks programs growing and not ours? Why is our track the worst facility in Southern Ohio? As discussions continued into the month of June, others joined into this conversation. Other coaches from other sports, additional, as much impact, something that we hope that this board can support. Again, thank you for the time for us to come together and to start this conversation. At this point, we'll have any questions?
I just first want to say thank you for your presentation and to the students that stood up. Well done. I appreciate the brave. I've been on that side. It's not easy. You did a heck of a job. I do have one question, just as all the students were talking. How long has it been since we've been able to host home meets?
Probably 6 years.
So 2012, it got revamped, patched. Excuse me, was that right? It got patched in 2012, and that we were able to host for 2 years?
We had one or I think it was only one meet, and it was 2 other teams other than us, so three teams total.
I was just, I
I
apologize.
think trouble, both teams had very few kids, honestly.
So it has been an issue for quite some time. Any other questions?
No, we'll talk next month, right?
I-
You'll be back next month, right?
Yes, absolutely. We're asking to give us the time, and we will definitely come back next month to give you some options of what we've come up with.
Sure.
Isn't it also true that you need 8 lanes on the track? The track's actually not wide enough or enough?
Well, to host a lot of things, yes,
I mean,
yes.
to be correctly.
It is not it's not a official size where you can host an invitational or something like that. Correct.
I would look forward, we've had a conversation, I would look forward to those different options that would make it operational. Not operational just in terms of being able to practice, but at what point do we create the best situation for all students?
And that's what we want to look into, to give you multiple options to consider.
I would greatly appreciate not only that presentation, but the time that would go into creating it, as I'm sure this was a lot to begin with as well. So,
Russ, can you bring us cost estimates next time, or is that
One-
premature?
No, I don't think so. No, we could probably give you
Ballparks.
some ballpark estimates, yes.
Okay.
Yep,
Good.
yep.
all right, thank you. Item 5, we have the consent agenda. As we move forward, consent agenda, again, is something relatively new to us, and so I'm going to move towards the way that it is designed. So typically on the consent agenda is things that are normal protocol. For example, we have the minutes, financial statement, as well as general transfers. And so I will leave it up to the board members. Is there anything that that you feel need to remove from the consent agenda? No? In that case, I look for a motion.
So moved.
Seconded. Yes.
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 We have no treasurer recommendations off the consent agenda, so under superintendent's recommendations, we have, under item 8, we have, it's recommended that the Board of Education approve the additional hours for school counselors at a rate of $67 per hour during summer school, up to 40 hours. So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Roll.
Yes.
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 Item B, it's recommended the Board of Education approve the following employee transfers for the 2020-21 school year. We have Beth D. Benedetto, Dawn Jeffers, and Nancy Witten.
Moved.
Second. Discussion?
I'm confused.
I don't even know where we're at.
We are done with consent agenda.
Page 4.
Page 4.
Okay.
Those are the consent agenda.
Those were, so we approved the
Consent agenda.
the superintendent's consent agenda and the treasurer's?
Yep.
Okay. All right.
We're good.
I'm good now.
We're on
Thank
page
you.
4, people. Took me a while to.
Again, it's new, we're working towards it. So again, we have a motion and a second for item B. Is there any discussion? And I ask for roll.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes. Yes.
Item C, it's recommended the Board of Education employ the following for the 2020-21 school year, pending their meeting all state and local requirements. We have Sarah Bush, Olivia Caudill, Morgan Grinstad, Morgan Hafner, sorry. I have it, sorry, I apologize. Jayla Mace, Jennifer Mitchell, Angie Mosier, Doug Skinner, and Aaron Thomas.
Are you going to add Aaron Miller?
Oh, and we had the Aaron Miller, Sheila Collins, and Todd Norris. Got to look to the right.
And Carly Jordan and Kaylee Krugman. Everyone written there.
I skipped two. That Hafner got me all messed up. Carly Jordan and Caitlin Krugman.
Moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll.
I just want to point a clarification, just for the record, that the long-term sub will be with benefits as well, as were the two previous long-term subs that were approved at the prior meeting. But
Okay.
just wanted to clarify that for the record. Okay, Mrs. Udis?
Yes.
Mr. Regan?
Yes.
Mr. Barnes?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Welcome to all those officially. Item D, it's recommended that the Board of Education approve the enclosed job description for the special education coordinator.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Roll.
Mrs. Udis?
Yes.
Mr. Regan?
Yes.
Mr. Barnes?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
And Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Item E, it's recommended the Board of Education approve the negotiated agreement with the ALEA through August 31st, 2024.
So moved.
Seconded.
Any discussion?
Just a quick comment. Thanks to the union representatives for a very fruitful negotiation. Thank you.
You're welcome and thank you.
Thanks, Carla.
Okay.
You ready for roll?
Roll.
Mrs. Udis?
Yes.
Mr. Regan?
Abstain?
Mr. Barnes?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Item F, it's recommended the Board of Education approve the negotiated agreement with OAPSE through June 30th, 2024.
So moved. Seconded.
I'm fine on this one?
Yep.
Okay. Any discussion? Roll.
Same,
Oh,
just
go
quickly,
ahead.
same comment to the union reps.
Ditto.
Thank you.
Mrs. Udis?
Yes.
Mr. Regan?
Yes.
Mr. Barnes?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
And Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Item G, it's recommended the Board of Education approve the enclosed salary schedules for the non-union classified members, employees, and administrators for the 21-22 through the 23-24 school years.
So moved.
Seconded.
Discussion? Roll.
Mrs. Udis?
Yes.
Mr. Regan?
Yes.
Mr. Barnes?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Item H, it's recommended the Board of Education approve the one-year renewal with the Nutrition Group for food service management services to begin July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2022. This is the 5th year of the 5-year agreement based on 4 one-year renewals with mutual agreement.
So moved.
Second. Discussion? Roll.
Mrs. Edis?
Yes.
Mr. Regan?
Yes.
Mr. Barnes?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Yeah. Under business initiated by board members, do we have any of the new teachers, new hires, well, to Alexander?
I'd like to introduce Morgan Hafner.
Oh, sorry.
Morgan is our new band director this year. We're excited about him being here. He's already been on the clock. He's had band camp. You got introduced, I think he was hired on maybe Friday. Band camp started on Monday. We gave him the weekend to get ready. So if he'd like to come on up and say a couple things. And we've, Lindsay Van Winkle, as you know, took a new job this year at Logan. She lived in Lancaster, has had a second child, and we're happy for Lindsay if she's watching, and her new job. She did a great job. She's left us in a really good place, and we're excited about what Mr. Hafner's going to do. So.
And thank you. We like Mr. Rain said, we've already begun getting to work with band camps and practices, and I'm very excited to start and get the season going. So.
Glad to have you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
I'm blessed to not say thanks to Mr. Dale in making this transition, a very smooth transition, stepping in where old learner. Thanks, Mr. Dale.
Absolutely. Any other business initiated by board members?
I do. I feel like it's separate than the discussion on H, but back to the meat issue with breakfast. Lindy was very helpful in setting up a meeting with Dan and I at the end of the school year. This past year, at the beginning of the year, we were hoping to have meat for breakfast for the kids at least 3 or 4 times a week, but it didn't happen for 2 reasons. One, COVID and the elementary kids were eating in their classrooms, and 2, supply. This coming year, I'm hoping it's different. The elementary kids will have the option of eating in their classrooms. The teachers said that they prefer it because then they get more time, a little extra time for education. However, kids are allowed, if they or their parents want them, to go down to the cafeteria to have breakfast. So, and junior high and high school kids can do the grab and go, or can go to the high school or to the cafeteria and get meat. The issue with meat is it has to stay warm, so it can only be gotten in the cafeteria. In May, 1 day out of the whole month had meat on the menu for breakfast. Every month we get packets, and it's a list that Aaron does of all the checks that the school has written out. It's the reconciliation report. Every month we pay $34,000 to the nutrition group. And the lunches are great, but $34,000 for 1 helping of meat for kids, some of whom might have a hard time getting a good breakfast. We're paying more. We should be getting more for it. So I'd like to make a motion that we request that the nutrition group provide a meat product for breakfast 4 out of 5 days for this coming year. It's a request. It's obviously not an order, but I'd like to give Dan ammunition to go back to his bosses and say that school board said they want meat for breakfast however many days a week.
We have a motion on the floor.
Meat.
We have to do a motion, can't we just have Dan come and talk to him about
Well, the motion was made to make the request, and then we can throw a second out there and then have a discussion of how we want to handle that motion. I'll second that motion. So further discussion.
Fred, your question was if it has to be a motion, or why can't we just have Dan come here?
Yeah, what I was saying is, why don't we just have Lindy, have Dan come and explain it?
Well, we did that last year, and we still didn't get that much meat, and ended up getting one helping in May. So I'd like to officially have the board decide what we think the minimum, it could be 3 times a week.
Okay.
I'd like us to give him a goal to aim for.
Aaron, I might be off base, but how does this request play with what we just did at Age and renewing the contract we have with them? And does that alter that contract in any way?
We work on a reimbursement basis, so whatever the cost of the food is what we will pay. So if we mandate or request and they appease us by fulfilling that request, and
They'll
it
just
increase
pass
our
it on.
cost, they'll pass
Okay.
it on to
They'll just
us.
pass it
Yeah,
on. All right.
absolutely.
Doesn't change the level of service
No.
that they give us. It's cost plus, basically.
Exactly.
Okay.
Right. So personally, I know that number has been thrown out several times, at several different meetings. And I don't have it in front of me, so to me, I personally would like to see the difference between what the cost would be if we said 2 days a week, 3 days a week, 4 days a week, 5 days a week, what that cost difference is compared to what we're getting reimbursed from the state or federal. If that's, would that be possible?
I think that is possible, and Dan's intentions are to serve more meat during breakfast this coming year. One problem with this past year is the supply and demand throughout the whole nation on food supplies. Many times we have it on the menu, but if it doesn't come in on the truck, we can't meet that. But his goal is to have meat 4 out of 5 days.
It's my understanding that we're not asking for extra meat. We're just asking, instead of the confetti pancakes, we get bacon or sausage or eggs.
Basically, you're requesting a change to the menu, not additional
Correct.
food.
Just make it so that whoever ends up going to the cafeteria, and when I was there, I think I was trying to count and talk, which is impossible, but I think there was like 70 students who were there having breakfast. And that was in the spring. So I don't think we're talking a lot, but I want if this happens, I'd like the parents to, especially at the elementary, to know they can send their kids down to the cafeteria and get meat for breakfast, whatever kind of meat it is.
Do we have any historical statistics of what the kids want to eat or do grab and eat? Do we have any of that, or have a way? Or is it just kind of based on what the kitchen supervisor might
I'd say
be able to
it's
tell
probably
us?
going to be based off the supervisor plus the workers that are in there every day, just their experience and knowledge of what they see.
Because I would be curious to know what our food waste is as well.
Yeah.
If we're going to do this. Because you can prepare it, but it doesn't mean that they're going to eat it. And I think all of us with kids know that. It's like, me with Brussels sprouts. You can prepare it, but I am sure not going to eat them.
That's not a meat product.
That's not a meat product, but take your pick, Fred.
There's bacon on it if you do it right.
But from a business point of view, if we're going to do this, I best have Dan and also see if he can give me the information on what these kids are actually eating, because we can't force them to eat meat, and is it going to be wasted? That's what
I think he would be the best person to speak on that,
So-
for sure.
Just as though I have it, is to make an official, not just a request, but make an official request of the board support.
Yeah.
That is what the motion is.
Yeah.
Okay. I personally would like to make a motion to table this until we get that information and have Dan come in the next meeting. I agree. And so my motion is to table it till the next meeting and ask Dan and that additional information that the board requests.
So do we have to vote on
We have
Lucy's
to-
motion, since it was seconded?
I have a motion to table it, so I need.
Tabling it, doesn't
we need I guess I would need a second, and then we would go backwards.
Okay. It's all confusing, all right, so.
Motion that we request to make a decision on making an official request for 4 to 5 days a week, having meat and eat breakfast.
In the cafeteria breakfast,
In the
not the grab and
cafeteria,
go.
right, in the cafeteria
They'll
breakfast.
still get their donuts.
So.
I know.
So. Any other discussion? Then I ask for a roll on tabling.
Mrs. Edis?
Yes.
Mr. Regan?
Yes.
Mr. Barnes?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Other business initiated by board members. We have the board reports in our packets, the bullying report with 1 incident, correct? And then public participation. And if you have any public participation, I ask that you state your name so everybody at home knows who's speaking. All right. Our next scheduled meeting will be Wednesday, August 11th, 2021. That is the second Wednesday, the week before school starts. So we bumped it up 1 week.
Does that happen during the fair, Randy?
Yes.
Previous week.
Previous.
The previous week? The fair's not on the 11th?
I thought the livestock sale was on the 3rd. Yeah, it's fair week.
It's fair week.
Okay. That is fair week, yes.
You're gonna have a lot
I
of
think we,
pro-ag people.
I think we'll be okay. Yeah,
I think we'll be okay.
I think we'll be okay.
The timing is important.
The timing of, having that meeting before the start of the school year, I think it's important to have it. Everybody's okay with that?
What's on the agenda now?
What could be on the agenda is the main issue.
Okay, what could be on the agenda?
It's the start of the school year and what might be coming down the pipeline from the state or federal guidance that we need to get into place. Which hopefully is nothing, but.
Okay, as I say, we haven't had one early before. I was just asking the reason.
Well, we had one last month.
Last month, but not
Yeah.
because of earlier school, because of school starting. We've had it, last year we had it the week of school
Right.
starting. I was just curious.
Yep.
What's on the agenda is all.
What might be on the agenda. Any other, good? Then I ask for a motion of adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Mrs. Edis? Yes. Mr. Regan?
Yes.
Mr. Barnes?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.